Hey, good morning, everyone. Today's November 1st. This is the weekly Tuesday Jupyter Dev meeting. The folks here at Berkeley returned from a great trip out to New York for the Morse Sloan Data Science Environment Summit. That was last week. It was a fantastic event where Ian and Matthias and Mike shared some of their work. Fernando ran a couple sessions, and so we got some good feedback on Jupyter. That we can share with you probably, at the dev meeting when there's a larger group. We have a fairly small group today. We have about 6 participants today. But then next week we have our dev meeting. So in terms of updates on the project management side, I have, we did a lot of hacking on the schedule yesterday. So hopefully by today, well, definitely by today, I'll have the schedule out to the team for next week. And those will be available and actually also available for commenting if you'd like to make comments. I think that's all I have today. And Matthias is taking notes for me, which I appreciate. Great. And Matthias, you happen to be next.
Okay. So not much. I had quite a few requests at the summit last week that when Googling for IPython Docs, people would get the version of the documentation for all versions of IPython, which we definitively don't notice because Google is learning what we care about and we don't see that. And so I spent some time trying to literally directly edit the HTML of all the documentation to tell Google not to index it, or at least that the newest version is on read the doc and not on IPython.org. So in a couple of weeks, we should have a shift of Google referencing to the new documentation. I'm still working on that because it's quite complex to find the mapping between the right pages. And that's about it because I came back on Thursday, so not much has been done since then. I think that the next person is Steve.
I'm just working on beta issues for Jupyter Lab, nothing to report.
So, Carol, you're next. Even if you're not writing on the iPad, you can still express yourself and we'll take it from you.
I'd be happy to. Last week I was up at Cal Poly, had some good meetings with the students up there, and working through a bunch of Jupyter Hub documentation stuff, as well as some CSS cleanup that Cameron's been doing on the website, which is coming along, and looking forward. Going to be seeing Fernando on Thursday at the San Diego Supercomputer Center. They're having an event there, and then I will see everybody at the team meeting next week.
Yay! Great. Thanks, Carol. And I just pinged Jason, so he should be joining us in a second. Ian, I know you said you had nothing to say, but
Yep.
You want to share a little bit about what you're working on and what you presented at the summit?
Sure. So at the summit, yeah. So we just got back a couple days ago, so not a whole lot more to report. But at the summit, I demoed a sort of a proof of concept for real-time collaboration that involved 2 different Gmail logins editing in concert the same text editor and code console in Jupyter Lab. A tangentially related thing that I just started looking into is a user at the summit requested the ability, and I talked about this at the Jupyter Lab meeting a couple days ago, but for a wider audience, a user at the summit requested the ability to be able to edit a notebook without having an active kernel. And this would, in the instance that you don't have an active dev environment. And so I've been looking into what this would take, and if anybody has any thoughts on this as to whether this would be appropriate for side porting to the notebook, I'd be interested in hearing them.
Well, from a Jupyter Lab perspective, it seems like another widget factory that one of the options to the widget factory is whether it can start a kernel, prefer to start a kernel. So just another one called read-only notebook, where that is set to false, would probably do the trick for us.
And is that, so would that be something for JupyterLab? Would that be something that would be appropriate to be handled in the context?
It would be something added by the notebook plugin, a new factory with those options. And then so when you right click on a notebook to open it, that would be a new option.
But more than just read only, there's the, it would also, this would be just a non-executable one. So you might want to edit the markdown, for instance.
Right. Yeah. Whether it creates a full, like with a toolbar is another question. So yeah, there's more to be fleshed out, but technically at the core, it's a new widget factory that prefers not to start a kernel. And there's some more design decisions around that. And that probably should be provided by the notebook plugin.
All right, is that the end?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Ian. Who's next? We've a bunch of folks just joined, so thanks so much, JupyterLab team, for joining in. Let's see. Jason? The rest of your team members have, they have nothing to say. Is there anything you'd like to share on the JupyterLab?
Yeah, just highlights that we're making a coordinated release of IPyWidgets and a bunch of the packages that we've been using in demos and stuff. And I'm publishing some instructions to get a setup that is sufficient for demos. But the point is that it's a coordinated release of a bunch of the packages that work together really nicely in JupyterLab. So it's right now pending on JupyterLab 0.7, Steve. But I think 0.8 is probably, as soon as that cell drag and drop, I'm going to review that cell drag and drop soon, maybe tomorrow, or if somebody else wants to review it, then I think we should just go ahead and
It's already
0.8. Oh, it's already merged. Oh, yes. Perfect. Okay. So we might be ready for JupyterLab 0.8, and then
this PR to add version compatibility check is in, but it relies on someone having built their extension using 0.81 of the extension builder, because we were missing that metadata.
Yeah.
So if we merge that and then you do another coordinated release of everything, then everything should work.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. So right now I'm revving on JupyterLab 0.7 because Fernando has a talk he's giving on Thursday. We're trying to get everything set up for, and I think that's sufficient. And then maybe after we finish this coordinated release, we'll do 0.8. Right now I'm messing with IPyWidget styling and stuff. Sorry, I completely spaced it on the meeting start time. But that's basically what's been going on here.
Well, the 0.7, okay, no, that doesn't include drag drop, so we're fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Let's see. Mike, I know you said you have indicated that you do not want to say anything, but do you want to share anything about your talk at the More Slow Data Science Environment Summit?
It seemed to go well and was well received. I just talked about Jupyter and sort of where we see it interacting with the publishing sort of pipeline and all of that. And people seemed receptive. So is there anything in particular that you wanted me to cover?
No, I think that's great, unless anyone has questions. Oh, we got something in the chat. Okay. No, I think that's great. I think unless anyone has questions, it's just nice for folks to hear what you're working on and what you're presenting on and how progress is going on with the publishing work. So thanks. Does anyone
No problem.
else? Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? Chris, I see you're on the call. Do you have anything you wanted to share?
Nope, I'm just spectating this week.
Lurking, no problem. All right, well.
Actually, maybe I should say something. So I'm working on functionality this week that is going to be almost certainly just the first step. Basically, we need a way to link to documents from other plugins inside Jupyter Lab, and we need ways of sharing URLs in the future. But the thing that I'm working on now is sort of the first step, which can be supplanted without causing side effects. And that's just going to be an easy way for any plugin to generate a clickable node that fires off a command. And the most common use for that will be to open a document. You could have a link generated that links to a path to open a notebook, let's say. But the test case that I'm using as the client for this functionality is actually the launcher that Paul wrote, because that internally is doing something really similar anyway. So you may as well have that consume from this new plugin I'm working on as a test case, and then we could extend it to other things like the About plugin or the Help plugin or whatever. But if we decide to supplant this functionality with something more visible to the user, something that works with the history buttons insofar as it's sitting in the URL or whatever, the way I'm writing it now won't be a barrier, because right now I'm not changing any URL. So it'll basically be future-proof in that regard. But if anybody's working on a plugin that would benefit from clickable things that are going to open up other parts of the application, just send me a message or something, because maybe I can help you with that. That's it.
The notebook, I mean, we've added this in for widgets to open up a sibling widget. I imagine there's lots of things in the notebook that would love to pop up sibling windows.
I would imagine some kind of tagging thing for cells could be used in this way.
What do you mean, Mike?
Assigning metadata tags. Right now, you have to go in and manually start editing the metadata. And there was discussion a while back about having an interactive sort of GUI way of approaching that, at least for common ones. I can try to find the issue. I wasn't sure if it would still apply, but you were saying clickability and opening up new windows and functionality. And because that does sort of redesign the entire page, and force many reflows if you start editing metadata.
Right.
I figured that might be like that, but I also wasn't sure, especially if we hadn't come to a agreement on what the tag assignment interface was going to look like.
Right.
Since there are many ways to do it.
Okay, so I think that's a little broader. Basically, I guess think of it this way. Any item that you would ordinarily consider making, say, a link in a web page, but in JupyterLab, you wish instead of it being a link, it was firing off a command, whether that command actually ends up opening up like a new tab or that command does something else. That's the sort of thing where right now we're individually writing our own little click handlers. Each widget's dealing with it itself. That can be standardized, and we could have one global way of handling that. So any functionality you can imagine in a command and you want to connect, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Jimmy, I have one more
looking
thing.
The original issue in the hackpad that Brian had opened?
Right. So the original issue was actually a lot smaller in scope. It was just, how do I link to a notebook? How do I link to documents inside JupyterLab? And it just seems like there's a more general purpose solution to that. In fact, as I'm writing this, I might come to the conclusion that, you know what, there should be, among the helper functions, there should be one that's specifically for open file, so that it takes care of like a really simple use case for you. I'm not sure. I'm sort of adding small I'm trying to keep the API surface area small without making it needlessly obscure. And so if I find that you're doing the same thing over and over, and I can save you 4 lines of code in 20 places, then I'll do it. But if it's really just a matter of passing in one slightly different option parameter, then I'll leave it more general purpose.
Jamie, yeah, one other thing. So Sylvan and I released a beta version of IPyWidgets 6.0. If anybody wants to check that out, we'd be happy for feedback. Right now, I've discovered some holes in the CSS styling that I'm fixing right now, but drastic changes between 5.0 and 6.0. We took out the less styling, we put in CSS styling, etc. So if anybody wants to install it, pip install IPyWidgets --pre. We'll get you the new version. You can take it for a spin.
Great. Where's the link to all that?
I can put the instructions in Hackpad. It's not necessarily a link. It's just we released a PyPI package. And Matthias, we'll probably do a dev or a Jupyter mailing list announcement after I fix some of the holes that I'm finding right away.
I'm creating we started using an announcement section at the top of each weekly set of notes. So I'm going to just drop that in there. Maybe you could edit it a little bit.
Yep.
Instructions. So while I have you guys on the phone, so the biggest thing we're waiting for, I'm working on crafting a nice email to share the dev meeting schedule for next week, but this actually might be a great opportunity to just give you guys a preview as a reward for showing up to our weekly meeting. And let me just give you a quick look, and I'll walk you through it since we have a couple different documents that we've been working through. So I'd like to help you guys orient a little bit better. So let's see if I can do it. All right. Do you see my my Google Sheet here? Use your voices. I can't see you anymore, so I can just see
If you could bump it up one font, that would be good.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
All right. Let me move it. Limited by the size.
That's good. No, that was good.
Okay, I just moved it to a different monitor. All right, great. So, so this is just kind of, we have a pretty good backbone for the meeting. The goal of the meeting next week is to give teams a chance to, we'll talk about the formation of the teams and the structure and kind of the expectations, and then, the goal of the week is for you to get all of you guys together to work through all the features and planning and everything that you're not able to do when we're working as a distributed team. So we've really carved out a lot of time for the teams to work together. The first day we have more structure around which teams will meet, but depending on what work gets done and how the teams plan to structure their time for the week, that'll change over the course of the meeting. So the first day, we will all meet and get oriented and kind of set the stage for how the rest of the week will flow. And then, it will really be up to the teams to decide how you all want to use the rest of the week. Now, we know that we have we have individuals assigned to multiple teams. So, we want to give those team leads the opportunity to work with all their different teams to schedule time in. So the first tab, so this Google Sheet has 2 tabs. The bottom one is the schedule for the week, and I've protected it for editing because we don't want anything to get out of order. But the second page, the second tab is team topics. I'll click on that now. So these team topics are all the feedback that we received from the team, from starting last week over the weekend, and actually before that, Brian and Fernando and I have been working to kind of figure out which things folks we would want the teams to focus on and move forward. So the columns have the team name, so and then row 2 has the leaders. So the first column is column B, the column with data, and that's for everyone. So, as a team, we'll be working through the roadmap, the team formation and structure, the documentation, issue triage, label taxonomy. Jupyter Lab has been doing some really good work with issue triage and creating a taxonomy for their label system. So you guys can share that with us. We have this user engagement team that is kind of a catch-all right now, so we'd like to kind of parse that out and give it more shape. So we'll be working on that, and then talk a little bit more about how we want to continue to do this collaborative decision making as the team grows. So then, for some of you who are team leads, we'll have in row 2. You can find your name there.
Jamie?
Yes?
Jamie, we're seeing the topics deliverables to slot into agenda. Is there a spreadsheet we're supposed to use?
I was just realizing that you were narrating the thing that you were looking at, and we were not looking at the same thing.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, because I moved. Thank you for grabbing me. Hold on. Give me 1 sec. Let me see me again. How did I do that? How about that?
Now we're seeing a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Dev meeting schedule.
Good. Okay, that's the right one then. Thanks. When I moved my window into the larger monitor, it stayed on the old one. So, okay. So everything I just said, watch the video. But here, do you want me to go through all that again?
No, just can you zoom in a little bit, please?
Oh, sure.
Or maximize it.
How's that?
Yeah. And then if you could maximize it so you're using the full screen space, that'd be great.
Yay.
Does the little green button in the corner not work right now?
Are we happy?
Looks good.
Okay. Thanks. All right. So as I was saying, the first column with data and the team topics tab is this everyone all team. So I listed out the different items that we'll go through. And then from then on, we have a row 2. Oh, thanks, Matthias. Matthias is giving me a real-time view of what you guys are seeing now, which I appreciate. Then row 2 is leaders. So for those of you who are leads, so I like to call them leads. You guys can call them leaders if you want. Kill the sound on that. So we have, Jess won't be making it. So if anyone who wants to do an education group, you guys can meet if you'd like to meet on that. So these are kind of the topics that we would like the teams to address over the course of the week, and it'll be up to the teams to figure out when during the week you all will talk about it, those topics. Okay. And let's see, I've clicked back to the tab schedule for week. Everybody see that? Yeah, I can only see Jason, so okay, good. All right, and so you'll just see that we have a lot of team time carved out for the teams to meet and work. The first day we'll have the Jupyter Lab and Notebook teams meet. We'll have 4 teams meet on Monday at around 11. Jupyter Lab, Notebook, Governance, Project Management, Jupyter Hub, Documents, and Kernel. So those 4 teams will break out and plan their schedule for the week, and then the other teams will kind of rally around that and figure out where they can slot themselves in. I do also want to point out that Anna's done a great job putting together dinners. So we're still waiting on whether to see if the Wednesday night dinner, it was originally scheduled for Tuesday, but that's election night. So we weren't quite sure if everybody would want to sit around a table while there's all this frantic emotion going on with the election. So we're trying to move that to Wednesday, which is a nice team dinner in San Luis Obispo. And then Thursday night, Anna has planned us a great trip to the farmers market there, where you can just kind of buy whatever food you find at vendors along the street. So it's a really great activity.
Is the idea that the team time is parallel tracks? So if you were going to one of those, you could not be in attendance at the other?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
I'm kind of uncomfortable not being around for the governance meeting, and I'd probably be going to the documents one.
I agree. I think governance should be separate from the other ones.
Okay, so there are some items, and I'm happy to provide that feedback up to Fernando and Brian. There are a number of topics in the governance column that we could talk about. I know Fernando wanted to work on the code of conduct the first day, so we could, which is clearly very important. So if folks feel like they're straddled between two teams, we can rejigger the schedule to make sure that folks are able to attend the breakout groups that they're interested in. So this isn't set in stone, but I did want to float it by the group today, so you guys can start thinking about how you wanted to kind of the teams wanted to self-organize and what sessions you did want to attend. So I'm hearing that a lot of people want to go to the governance one, which is understandable. So let's figure out a way to bring everybody in.
Here's a suggestion. Maybe make the governance discussion right before dinner. That puts I know a lot of times we could spend weeks and weeks and weeks talking about governance. Putting an end to the governance meeting and letting people absorb and think and ponder about the discussion might be good. And then if you do it right before dinner, then just have everybody come together and make that the team, team end an hour before, 30 minutes before, however long we want, and then
people
dinner.
may be grumpier because of
That's true too.
Yeah,
That's
I think
true too.
earlier in the day is better because I think it is a key thing that hasn't been sufficiently addressed yet.
Okay.
What about Tuesday morning?
Okay.
I think
Now
the
remember,
first day is better.
Yeah,
Okay.
remember, yeah, certainly the first day. So remember that governance will be, the first time we'll touch on it will be Monday, but we can plan discussions for the rest of the week. So if the governance team gets, it's kind of a loosely organized team. If we get enough feedback that everybody's interested in taking part in certain pieces of the governance discussion, we can come together for all hands type discussion.
Hey, Jamie,
Compared to
even
all
if
of the
it's
other,
Fernando, sorry, Michael, even if it's Fernando doing a half an hour overview of governance, I think it needs to be its own topic and not conflicting with anything else.
Okay.
in a certain sense, it's almost not a team in the same way, since it applies to all of the teams and is of interest to everyone involved in the project. Like it almost, like in the way that documentation isn't, and that's why it's not a team per se. It's in the sort of, it spans everywhere.
Okay. Well, we'll update the schedule to reflect that feedback. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. That's good, great feedback. So let me just point out a couple more things in this schedule for week tab. Down at the bottom, there's additional planning docs. So the first link will take you to a Google Doc that lists the team topics that came up during that kind of the session. I think it was kicked off Thursday or Friday by Kyle Kelly. And he and Paul and then a whole bunch of other folks kind of dogpiled on this document to add all the things that they're really jonesing to discuss at the meeting. So we took all those into consideration. Brian and Fernando and I added our talking points that we wanted to cover. So those should all be in that Teams Topics document. The travel logistics that Anna put together are in a hack pad. That's the second link. And then finally, some super detailed meeting logistics that Anna put together are in that third tab. So I can actually share that with you guys. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can find my cursor. Sorry, I should have done this earlier. See if you can access that, and feel free to make comments, and we'll start iterating on that governance, the times for the governance discussion. Okay, that's all I have for today. I see a lot of happy faces in my tray there, so really appreciate you guys coming together today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody next week. I think Donna's going to send out a note asking where folks are staying and when they plan to arrive and leave, just so we can kind of keep better track of everyone. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop recording. Thanks, Internet. Bye-bye.